Oh, also, I forgot about this. I just put this slide in because I wanted to make sure you had it, because it's not normally I just write it on the board. Something else going on in 1916. There's this revolution going on in Mexico. Okay? Now, the poor Mexican government has been very weak and unstable since like it was started. Okay, and in 1916, I think it started around 1910, if I recall, there was this ongoing revolution going on in Mexico. Okay? This was one of the things that Wilson had his eye on because it's right across the border. Now, this isn't actually part of World War I, but it's going on at the same time. And if you look at chapter 20, like the page before they start talking about World War I, it talks a little bit about this. So what happened is a Mexican revolutionary who went by the name Pancho Villa, although I don't believe that was his real name, rode across the border and attacked Columbus, New Mexico. Now, Americans are kind of funny about things like this. We don't like it when people from other countries cross our border and kill us. And so Wilson has to do something. And so he will send the United States Army into Mexico in an attempt to capture and punish Pancho Villa. So the army, which isn't very large at the time, heads south, crosses the border into Mexico in pursuit of Pancho Villa. Now, the Mexican government's not real happy about this, as you can imagine. Okay? So who might you put in charge of such a thing? Who is a well-respected military leader with all kinds of experience who could run this thing? How about our good friend, slide, John J. Pershing? Remember him? I should have put his name on this slide. John J. Pershing, Pershing. Remember, we saw him in Cuba with the Buffalo Soldiers. And later he was in the Philippines during the Philippine insurrection. Well, guess what? He's back. I told you he keeps flying through the narrative. He's the guy in charge of the punitive expedition. There's a formal portrait of him there on the left, looking kind of sour. He had kind of a reputation as not being a very happy kind of guy. Now, one reason for this could be that on the right there you see a picture of his family. Well, Pershing had been sent to the border because of the unrest on the border. This is before the punitive expedition. Okay? He was down on the border. A fire broke out at his house in the Presidio in San Francisco and killed most of his family. And after that, pictures of Pershing smiling are kind of hard to find. So you'll see on the right there's Pershing, his wife, 3 children, and I think a cat. And I think 2 of the children and the wife were killed in the fire, and one of the kids managed to get out. And this apparently really put a crimp in Pershing's style, because this happened while he's away from home. He's probably racked with guilt that he wasn't there to try to rescue his family. But he's in charge of the punitive expedition, go down and cross the border and chase Pancho Villa. Next slide. So here's this great picture. I like telling you the little ironies of history sometimes, weird things that happen. So there's a meeting down on the border, I think in 1914. This picture's on Wikipedia if you want to get it. That's where I got it. The guy on the right with a big smile on his face, that's John Pershing. Okay? This is before his family has been killed. Okay? So there's this meeting down on the border with the Mexican government and the American government. They're talking about things, and someone says, "Hey, let's take a picture," and they all get together and smile. So on the right is John J. Pershing. The guy in the middle, in civilian clothes, is Pancho Villa. Yeah. So here's one of these strange twists of fate. In 1916, Pershing's riding all over Mexico with the army trying to find Pancho Villa, and in 1914 he could just reached over and grabbed him. He's right there, standing next to Pershing. It's funny how things happen in history, isn't it? That's why it's such a fascinating subject. All right. So the army rides around for several months, about a year if I recall. Okay. I never do actually catch Pancho Villa. because he's like a folk hero to the Mexican population. There's some gunfights, some Mexicans are killed, some Americans I think were killed. I mean, there's skirmishes, but Pershing and his men never can find Pancho Villa, and eventually they'll have to pull him back home. Okay? So this is also one of the things going on in 1916 during the election year. Let's talk about the election. Next slide, please.